Alrighty, everybody. Welcome into Nessa's Time Domain. Let me fix this camera. The spot I have this camera at is like it always either like is on or off, or when I start to stream up, it's always like in the wrong place. Alright, so, yeah, I added a third chapter in the day because I was like, yesterday we did it, so I'm sure today we can do it. I just have to like remain focused and not talk so much while I'm breaking the chapters down. Unfortunately, that's just what I do sometimes. I get into these moments where like talk, and then I end up like talking too much. Um, but let's just get into the reading right now. So, all right. So let's take a look. Let me take a look real quick. So, yeah, chapter 13 is a little bit longer, and 14. Okay, so we should be able to do this. I just can't stop as much. So, all right. Purification after childbirth, chapter 12. The Lord said to Moses, say to the Israelites, a woman who becomes pregnant and gives birth to a son will ceremonially will be ceremonially unclean for 7 days, just as just as she is unclean during her monthly period. On the eighth day, the boy is to be circumcised. Then the woman must wait 33 days to be purified from bleeding. She must not touch anything sacred or go to the sanctuary until the day of her purification are over. If she gives birth to a daughter for 2 weeks, the woman will be unclean during her period. Then she will wait 66 days to be purified from her bleeding. When the days of her purification for a son or daughter are over, she is to bring the priest at the entrance to the tent of meeting a year-old lamb, a burnt offering, and a young pigeon or a dove for a sin offering. She shall offer them before the Lord to make Oh wow. Chapter 13 short. I mean 12 short. Hold on. I didn't realize chapter 12 was short. That's why I was like, okay, we'll read 3 today. All right. Atonement for her, and she will be ceremonial clean from her flow of blood. These are the regulations for the woman who give birth to a boy or a girl. But if All right, let me get situated here. If she cannot afford a lamb, she is to bring 2 doves or 2 young pigeons, one for a burnt offering and the other for a sin offering. In this way, the priest will make atonement for her, and she will be clean. All right, so as you can see there, the women had to go and bring offerings to the Lord, um, for um, hang on, let me get back. So to be purified after everything, um, after having a child, you needed to bring offerings to the Lord to be purified of that. So in you know, the monthly period is normal for women. Of course, if you're a guy and you don't know that and you've been with a woman forever, it's kind of surprising that you wouldn't know that, unless like she really kept it secret from you. Now, I had, women. Sometimes women don't like men knowing that. But I grew up around a mother and a sister that just like told me that stuff, and that's how I know about it. I fortunately, it's not something that I preferably want to know as a guy. It's just something I know because I was raised by my mother and my sister, of course. It's very rough to be raised like that sometimes when, and then your mom starts thinking weird stuff of you when you get older because she helped raise you and stuff like that. It's like, no, I'm perfectly fine. Okay. Regulations about defiling skin diseases. The Lord said to chapter 13, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, when anyone has a swelling or a rash or a shiny spot on their skin. Okay, so let me go back to this section before we move on with the women, okay? If you, if, okay, how do I want to put this? All right, in today's age, we have a problem where, you know, men are trying to become women, okay? I saw it, I saw something the other, a few months ago where a, a, a guy transitioning into a woman was claiming to have, you know, menstrual cycle problems is the best way to say it. And I saw this video and I'm like, this guy is freaking nuts. There's no reason that this guy changing over to be a woman should have this effect, because that's something that if you're naturally a woman, you're supposed to be having those issues. Unfortunately, hold on 1 second. I forgot to do something. I gotta shrink my screen here. All right. And pull up YouTube. So I forgot. But yeah, I saw a video. I saw a video clip of this. Like, what is this guy doing? That he's pretending to have this problem, and he's transitioning from a guy to a girl. This is why I don't respect. This is why I don't have. This is why I don't agree with that kind of stuff. You know, a lot of people don't agree with it because you're trying to pretend to be something you're not. Okay, to pretend to have a painful feeling that is undescribable, and women wished on men. Okay, that's something that a man transitioning to a woman cannot feel. No offense, but if you're not naturally a woman, you'll never be able to feel that experience. All right. Now, like, that's the problem with everybody is like they do these things, and then they get in their head, well, I'm a girl. Like, okay, so okay, with that kind of stuff, it's impossible for you to feel that way. It would be impossible because that's naturally what women feel. All right. As a transgender person that goes from a guy into a girl, which like is just weird to begin with, you're not gonna feel that same pain that everybody else is feeling. And then, I saw a video of it, and then dude's like hopping around and all that. I'm like, you look like a freaking psycho, buddy. You look like you're going crazy over there. Like, and it was just a video about how like they were experiencing their like monthly menstrual cycle pain or whatever. And I'm like, no, no, you just can't. It's impossible for you to even feel that way. So yeah, it's just, you know, when I grew up living with my mother told me about this stuff, and I'm like, and then you learn about it in sex ed later on, because in school, and biological women will experience this, but no fake. That's just like if a person was to go from being a woman try to be a woman to a man. All right, that happens too. You're still they're still gonna feel that same exact pain. That's what gets me about this whole thing. Is like, it just, how do you say you're this when you can't even experience those things, let alone have a child? You know, and that's where everybody's messed up right now. And like, nothing's gonna change. The human body's still gonna remain the same. But if you're coming out of your mom's womb, and then years and years later on down the road, you want to make a change in your life, and you want to change over to be like the opposite gender, it's nearly impossible. It is, in fact, it is impossible, because men don't experience that. If you're a man, if you're trying to transition into a man, and you're experiencing that, that's a sure sign you were originally a woman, okay? Don't ever try to say you're a man. And then if you're a man trying to transition to a woman, Don't ever say you're a woman, because you know what? You cannot experience the thing. You cannot experience that. Just remember that. It's weird to begin with that anybody would even consider doing that. Like, how are you going to put that into your system that you need to experience this one thing to happen to women every single month? It's going to be impossible, okay? All right. Regulations about defiling skin diseases, okay? Chapter 13. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, when anyone has a swelling or a rash or a shiny spot on their skin that may be defiling skin disease, they may be brought to Aaron the priest or to one of his sons who is a priest. The priest is to examine the sore on the skin, and if the hair in the sore has turned white and the sore appears to be more than skin deep, it is a defiling skin disease. When the priest examines the person, he shall pronounce the ceremonially unclean. If the shiny spot on the skin is white but does not appear to be more than skin deep, and the hair in it has not turned white, the priest is to isolate the affected person for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine them, and if he sees that the sore is unchanged and has not spread in the skin, he is to isolate them for another 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine them again, and if the sore has faded and has not spread in the skin, the priest shall pronounce them clean. It is only a rash. They must wash their clothes, and they will be clean. But if the rash does spread in their skin after they have shown themselves to the priest to be pronounced clean, they must appear before the priest again. The priest is to examine the person, and if the rash has spread in the skin, he shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin disease. When anyone has a defiling skin disease, they must be brought to the priest. The priest is to examine them, and if there is a white swelling in the skin that has turned their hair white, and if there is raw flesh in the swelling, it is chronic skin disease, and the priest shall pronounce them unclean. He is to isolate them because they are already unclean. If the disease breaks out all over their skin, and so far as the priest can see, it covers the skin on the affected person from the foot, the priest is to examine them, and if the disease is covered their whole body, he shall pronounce them clean. Since it has turned white and they are clean, but whenever the raw flesh appears on them, they will be unclean. When the priest sees the raw flesh, he shall pronounce them unclean. The raw flesh is unclean. They have a defiling disease. If the raw flesh changes and turns white, they must go to the priest. The priest is to examine them, and if the sores have turned white, the priest shall pronounce the affected person clean, and they will be clean. When someone has a boil on their skin and it heals, and in the place where the boil was a white swelling of reddish white spot appears, they must present themselves to the priest. The priest is to examine it, and if it appears to be more than skin deep, and the hair in it has turned white, the priest shall pronounce that person unclean. It is the defiling skin disease that has broken out where the boil was. If when the priest examines it, there is no white hair in it, and it is more than skin deep and has faded, then the priest is to isolate them for 7 days. If it is spreading in the skin, the priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling disease, but if the spot is unchanged and has not spread, it is only a scar from a boil, and the priest shall pronounce them clean. So all this going on with these scars and all that, it was decided back in the day if you were clean or unclean. Like example, like I have a scar on my side that I've had forever, and it's from going down a huge hill while I was riding a skateboard. I fell off of my skateboard, and it's because I wobbled on the way down because I didn't crouch down to like the position you're supposed to control your board and your speed and your not speed, but to control your board and your the way you ride. So like when you get a really fast pace of speed, you have to sit there and control your skateboard so you don't like so you don't so you don't run into it like anything or anything like that because it was scary, man. It was a challenge I took up in high school where my friend was just like, "Can you go?" Like they challenge each other to go down this hill, and I took the most gnarliest wipeout, and gnarly is an old word, yes, but I took the most gnarliest wipeout. I rolled my shoulder and I scratched my side, and the side still to this day has the white scar on it. And I'd be clean, but it's one of those things that like I made that choice because somebody challenged me. Okay, I'm a guy where if another dude challenges me to something and it's worth the risk, and there's nothing really involved. I mean, I could have got hit by a car, of course, but it's one of those things that like I wanted to do it because like I felt like I could have done it, and I went down. But when I went down the hill, I fell off my skateboard, and it was just I got up, and the thing that sucked is it started raining after I got up and after I was injured. So it was like insult to injury, and guys like, yeah, here's some rain on top of what you did, idiot. So it's one of those memories from when I was a young guy that like I did, and the whole school talked about it too. My shoe fell off, and like it was crazy. The whole school, like the it was one of those moments that like you did something awesome, but you really messed up, and you weren't laughed at for being messed up, but you did something really awesome that you almost went down the hill on, and everybody in school talked about that, and I was just like, I didn't even expect it. I was like, I thought I was a nobody, but then after that event, people actually started talking to me after that. They're like, okay. Yeah, I was one of those kids that like I wasn't popular, but I also like I was still kind of an outcast, and I had people talk about me because of this event because it's one of those events that like if you went down that hill and you wiped out like me, you're obviously gonna get talked about, because not you didn't do anything wrong, but you still did something incredibly insane that like most people would be afraid to do. And I don't know, something in me made me fearless, and I went down that hill, and I could have like there was a car that literally went by me too, so it was crazy. So no roads were blocked off or anything, and I just decided to go down it. It was it wasn't scary when I was going down. What scared me was the wobbling when I knew I was gonna fall off. I was like, man, I can't believe this. I'm almost at the bottom of the hill. So when someone has a burn on their skin and spot appears a reddish white or white spot appears in the raw flesh of the burn. The priest is to examine the spot, and if the hair in it has turned white and it appears to be more than skin deep, it is a defiling disease that has broken out in the burn. The priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin disease, but the priest examines it, and there is no white hair in the spot, and if it is not more than skin deep, and has faded, the priest is to isolate them for 7 days. On the seventh day, the priest is to examine the person, and if it is spreading in the skin, the priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin. If, however, the spot is unchanged and has not spread in the skin, but has faded, it is a swelling from burning, it is a swelling from the burn, the priest shall pronounce them clean. It is only a scar from the burn. If a man or woman has a sore on their chin, their head or chin, the priest is to examine the sore, and if it appears to be more than skin deep, and the hair is yellow and thin, the priest shall pronounce them unclean. If it is a defiling skin disease on the head or chin, but when the priest examines the sore, it does not seem to be more than skin deep, and there is no black hair in it, and the priest is to isolate the affected person for 7 days. On the seventh day, the priest is to examine the sore, and if it has not spread, and there is no yellow hair in it, and does not appear to be more than skin deep, then the man or woman must shave themselves except for the affected area. The priest is to keep them isolated another 7 days. On the seventh day, the priest is to examine the sore, and if it has not spread in the skin and appears to be no more than skin deep, the priest shall pronounce them clean. When they wash their clothes, and they will be clean. But if the sore does not spread in the skin after they are pronounced clean, the priest is to examine them, and if he finds that the sore has spread in the skin, he does not need to look for yellow hair. They are unclean. If, however, the sore is unchanged for as far as the priest can see, and if black hair has grown in it, the affected person is healed, they are cleaned, and the priest shall pronounce them clean. When a man or a woman has white spots on the skin, the priest is to examine them, and if the spots are dull white, it is harmless. It is a harmless rash that has broken out on the skin. They are clean. A man who has lost his hair and is bald is clean. If he has lost his hair from the front of the scalp and has a bald forehead, he is clean. But if he has a reddish white sore on his bald head or forehead, it is a defiling disease breaking out on his head or forehead. The priest is to examine him, and if the swollen sore on his forehead is reddish white, like a defiling skin disease, the man is diseased and is unclean. The priest shall pronounce him unclean before the Lord, because of the sore on his head. Anyone with such a defiling disease must wear torn clothes. Let their hair be unkempt, cover the lower part of their face, and cry out, unclean, unclean. As long as they have the disease, they will remain unclean. They must live alone. They must live outside the camp. All right, so that was a long one, but okay. That's if you have a disease, the Lord said you must live alone, and you must you must not. A lot of this was basically about there was a lot of diseases must have been going on back then, because if you remember at one point, the Lord sent the plague out in the time of Moses. Okay, so think about how many people were coming into this tabernacle that may have had that disease. And when they came to him, not Moses, but Aaron had to keep an eye on them, because back then in the day they didn't really have the equipment to take care of the plague or anything like that. So You have to look at it that way, because these skin diseases must be all over the place back then, and nobody really like there was no way of taking care of it, like because doctors weren't as great back then. So you just kind of had to, you know, I don't know if there. I mean, I feel like there would have been doctors, but the God doesn't talk about doctors in the book. It makes me wonder, like, about that part of what God thought about doctors and all that, and how he feels about like how he felt about people trying to be healed from this by medical use and medical healing and all that. Like, it makes me wonder, because in today's age, doctors are looked upon highly, and that's I don't go to doctors because you can ultimately heal yourself through reading this. Any type of healing you need that's like mental, you come to this. Now, if it's outside, if you get a wound or a gash, yeah, you have to go to the hospital and get that healed. But outside of that, medicine and all that, I try to avoid taking that, because it's not good. It's not good for you. It's not something that was created by God. It was created by man, to help try to heal stuff that isn't actually healable through that isn't actually you know we we have we have too many people in today's age talking about mental disorders and stuff like that. But the reality of the truth is, maybe your mental disorder was caused by you taking medicine to begin with and thinking you had a mental disorder. All right. The idea of psychology is all about judging a person on their actions. Okay. So example, your parents don't read the Bible. Okay. And they believe modern medicine can fix everything. So they send you off to this doctor. Okay. You get research. You'll come back with like a whole bunch of mental disorders you never even heard of before. And you know, a lot of people now say they have like autism and things like that. And I'm like, well, if you actually had autism, it's, you wouldn't want to say you had that, first of all, because that's a like very, very bad mental illness. You know, for me, I knew for the longest time I had ADHD, but I don't really think I have that. I mean, if I do, I can't really say, because God would make me think I still had that. Now, I have trouble reading. I stutter in reading sometimes, if you haven't noticed. I trip over words, but that's not really having ADHD. ADHD is a lot different than ADHD is actually described as something a lot different. Well, ADHD is a mental disorder they put in us to make us believe we have. That's why in schools, no matter when you look at it, people learn differently, okay? The academics programs are bad right now. They're not teaching people what they need to be teaching them. So that's why, like, when it comes down to mental disorders, you can't say you have a mental disorder, and and that's the problem, is we've ditched God and started going to doctors to believe that doctors can take care of us and heal us. When reality, the truth is, God is the only one that can heal us from any form of thing that we have. You know, I no longer sit there and actually believe I have ADHD solely for the fact that I've been reading the Bible. Now, a person will come up to me and be like, well, you have this, you have that, that's why this is going. No, no. Let me tell you something. People are absent-minded and they don't really pay attention, is because they're not reading the Bible. If you read the Bible, all right, if you read the Bible, you'll start paying attention to things differently. You'll start acknowledging things a lot differently. There's so many benefits from reading the Bible. It's not even funny. And for people to experience those benefits, instead of going to a doctor, that like just looks like you got brighter. Instead of going to a doctor, you guys should sit down, literally read this, and say prayers to God, because that's the only way you're technically going to get healed without medicine. I don't know why people seem to want to go to doctors and say doctors will take care of you, and it's because the government runs the doctors. So, and again, what does the government think of themselves? The government thinks they're God. The government like will try to betray themselves as a god, even though they're not God. That's why, like, when many people put their efforts in put their attention in the governmental things, like our president, what the government's doing, getting mad about what the government's doing and all that. It's one of those things that you're giving too much attention to something that doesn't need to be given attention to, and maybe you should sit down read the holy book and start praying to God, and God will help you get through a point you need. That's why I don't get as mad as I used to. I used to like I over a year ago I was following the political side of Twitter and all that, and I saw so many things that would just completely upset me for no reason at all. And ever since I came to the Bible and started reading the Bible, I felt a lot different. Like I don't feel as angry all the time. There's moments in a day where like the vegan people come to my store, and that hardens my heart. That does. That's just God saying, don't, try to get these people away from being vegan. So I'm gonna talk about that after I'm done reading here, though. Regulations about defiling molds. All right. As for any fabric that is spoiled with a defiling mold, any woven or linen clothing, any woven or knitted material of linen or wool, any leather of anything made of leather, if the affected area in the fabric, the leather, the woven or knitted material, or any leather article is greenish or reddish, it is defiling mold and must be shown to the priest. The priest is to examine the affected area and isolate the article for 7 days. On the seventh day, he is to examine it, and if the mold has spread in the fabric, the woven or knitted material, or leather, whatever its use, it is a persistent defiling mold. Persistent defiling mold. Alright? The article is unclean. He must burn the fabric, the woven or knitted material, or wool or linen, or any leather article that has been spoiled because of the defiling mold is persistent. The article must be burned. But if the priest examines it, the mold has not spread in the fabric, the woven or knitted material or leather article, he shall order that the spoiled article be washed. Then he is to isolate it for another 7 days. After the article has been washed, the priest is to examine it, and again, if the mold has not changed its appearance, even though it has spread, it is unclean. Burn it, no matter which side of the fabric has been spoiled. If the priest examines it, the mold has faded after the article has been washed, he is to tear the spoiled part out of the fabric, the leather, or the woven or knitted material, but if it reappears in the fabric, the woven or knitted material, or the leather article, it is a spreading mold. Whatever has the mold must be burned. Any fabric, woven or knitted material, or any leather article that has been washed and is rid of mold must be washed again. Then it will be clean. These are regulations concerning defiling mold in a woven or linen clothing. Woven or knitted material on any leather or article, for pronouncing them clean or unclean. So, all right. So these are clothing. So like example, you have that piece of clothing that's been sitting around for a while, and it gets mold on it, because that sometimes happens where you'll let clothing sit around for a while. You'll pick it up and it'll have a certain smell to it. That's mold. Okay, and what the Lord's saying is that the priest must get rid of it and burn it. So, all right, let's get into chapter 14. Cleansing from defiling skin diseases. Chapter 14. The Lord said to Moses, "These are the regulations of any diseased person at the time of their ceremonial cleansing. When they are brought to the priest is to go outside the camp and examine them. If they have been healed of the defiling skin disease, the priest shall order that 2 live clean birds, and some cedar wood, scarlet yarn, and hyssop be brought to the person to be cleansed. Then the priest shall order that one of the birds be killed over fresh water in a clay pot. He is then to take a live bird and dip it together with the cedar wood, the scarlet yarn, and hyssop into the blood of the bird that was killed over the fresh water 7 times. He shall sprinkle the one to be cleansed over the defiling disease, and pronounce them clean. After that, he is to release the live bird into the open fields. The person is to be cleansed. The person to be cleansed must wash their clothes, shave off their hair, and bathe with water. Then they will be ceremonial clean. After this, they may come into the camp, but they must stay outside their tent for 7 days. On the 7th day, they must shave off all their hair. They must shave their head, their beard, their eyebrows, and they must and the rest of their hair. They must wash their clothes and bathe themselves with water, and they will be clean. On the 8th day, they must bring 2 male lambs and 1 wee lamb, a year old, each without defect, along the 3/10 of an ephah of the finest mixed flour with olive oil, for a grain offering, and one log of oil. The priest who pronounces them clean shall present both one of the cleansed and their offerings before the Lord at the entrance to the tent of meeting. Then the priest is to take one of the male lambs and offer it as a guilt offering along with the log of oil. He shall wave them before the Lord as a wave offering. He is to slaughter the lamb in the sanctuary area where the sin offering and the burnt offering are slaughtered. Like the sin offering, the guilt offering belongs to the priest. It is most holy. The priest is to take some of the blood of the guilt offering and put it on a lobe of the right ear, one of the right ear of the one to be cleansed, on the thumb of their right hand, and 1 big toe of their right foot. The priest shall take some of the log of oil, pour it on the palm of his hand, pour it on the palm of his left hand, dip the right forefinger into the oil in his palm, and with his finger sprinkle some of it before the Lord 7 times. The priest is to put some of the oil remaining in his palm on the lobe of his right ear, the one to be cleansed, one on the thumb, their right hand, and one on the big toe of their right foot. On top of the blood of the guilt offering, the rest of the oil in his palm, the priest shall put on his head of one to be cleansed and make atonement for them before the Lord. Then the priest is to sacrifice the sin offering and make atonement for one to be cleansed from their uncleanness. After that, the priest shall slaughter the burnt offering and offer it on the altar together with the grain offering and make atonement for them, and they will be clean. If, however, they are poor and cannot afford those, they must take 1 male lamb as a guilt offering to be waved to make atonement from them, together with 1/10 of an ephah of the finest flour mixed with olive oil, for a grain offering, a log offering, and 2 doves or 2 young pigeons, such as they can afford, one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. On the eighth day, they must bring them for their cleansing to the priest at the entrance to the tent of meeting before the Lord. The priest is to take the lamb for a guilt offering together with the log of oil and wave them before the Lord as a wave offering. He shall slaughter the lamb for the guilt offering and take some of its blood and put it on the lobe of the right ear of one to be cleansed, on the thumb of their right hand, and on the big toe of their right foot. The priest is to pour some of the oil into the palm of its own left hand, with his right forefinger sprinkle some of the oil from his palm 7 times before the Lord. Some of the oil in his palm he is to put on the same place he put the blood of the guilt offering, on the lobe of the right ear of one to be cleansed, on the thumb of their right hand, and on the big toe of their right foot. The rest of the oil in his palm the priest shall put on the head of one to be cleansed, to make atonement for them before the Lord. Then he shall sacrifice doves or young pigeons, such as the person can afford, one as a sin offering and other as a burnt offering, together with the grain offering. In his way the priest will make atonement before the Lord on behalf of one to be cleansed. On the one of the ones to be cleansed. There are regulations for anyone who has a defiling skin disease and who cannot afford the regular offerings for their cleansing. All right. So, all right. So the Lord wants all this done. If you're having a defiling skin disease, He wants a lot of things done. He wants to make sure your clothes are clean. He wants to make sure you're clean. He wants to make sure you cut your hair and clean up. So, that's what I got out of all that. There's a lot to it though. Being a priest, there had to be a whole list of rules for you to follow. So, all right, cleansing from defiling molds. All right, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "When you enter the land of Canaan, which I am giving you as your possessions, and I put a spreading mold in a house in that land, the owner of the house must go and tell the priest, I have seen something that looks like a defiling mold in the house. The priest is to order the house to be emptied before he goes in to examine the mold, so that nothing is in the house will be pronounced unclean. After this, the priest is to go and inspect the house. He is to examine the mold on the wall, and if it is greenish or reddish depressions that appear to be deeper than surface of the wall, the priest shall go out the doorway of the house and close it up for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest shall return to inspect the house. If the mold has spread on the walls, he is to order that the contaminated stone to be torn out and thrown into an unclean place outside the town. He must have all the inside walls of the house spread, and the material that's scraped off dumped into an unclean place outside the town. Then they are to take other stones to replace this, and take new clay and plaster the house. If the defiling mold appears in the house after the stones have been torn out and the house scraped and plastered, the priest is to go and examine it, and if the mold has spread in the house, it is persistent defiling mold. The house is unclean. It must be torn down, its stone timber and all the plaster, and taken out of the town to an unclean place. If anyone goes into the house while it is closed up, it will be unclean till evening. Anyone who sleeps or eats in the house must wash their clothes. But if the priest comes to examine it and the mold has not spread after the house has been plastered, he has pronounced the house clean because the defiling mold is gone. To purify the house, he is to take 2 birds and some cedar wood, scarlet yarn, and hyssop. He shall kill one of the birds over fresh water in a clay pot, and he is to take the cedar wood to the hyssop, the scarlet yarn, and the live bird, dip them into the oil, dip them into the blood, and a dead bird and a fresh water, and sprinkle the house 7 times. He shall purify the house with the bird's blood, the fresh water, the live bird, the cedar wood, the hyssop, and the scarlet yarn. Then he is to release the live bird into the open fields outside the town. In this way, he will make an atonement for the house, and it will be clean. These are the regulations of any defiling skin disease for a sore, defiling mold, a fabric, or in a house, and for a swelling rash or shiny spot to determine when something is clean or unclean. These are regulations of the defiling skin disease and defiling molds. Alright, so now we're on chapter 15. That was a pretty good run. I read like through 3 chapters. These chapters were long for that part, so later on today, I'm going to read 3 more because I can get through 3 more. I'm going to try to do 3 every stream now, so that way I can get through this faster. Again, this is not as long as... Okay, so we don't have too much. If I keep reading 3s, it'll be an increase in speed and all that, so that's all I really need to do. Yeah, it looks like I got like... What the heck? I got about like 4 more pages to go. 4 more full pages, and that's back and front. So that's a couple chapters per each section I'm gonna read. So there we see what the rules and regulations were back then. Just remember, the Lord sent out the plague on if you remember earlier on, the Lord sent the plague out when Moses was trying to get everybody, the Israelites, out of Egypt. So the Lord sent the plague out amongst his people. And you know, we don't know where the plague came from, and that could be why he's talking about looking at flesh wounds and all that, because that stuff can lead to having flesh wounds and all that, and you're determined if you're clean. Now, medical stuff back then for that kind of stuff wasn't very good, you know. And when the Lord sent that out, we have to think about how many people may have got flesh wounds off, flesh diseases off of that, because the bubonic plague was it wasn't a sickness that was inside. It was more on like the skin, and it you know, it really affected people's skin. In case you don't remember, you can check it out. Look it up online and see what it looks like. We don't know what plague the Lord sent out to everybody, but everybody had the plague back then. Ended up with the plague back then. If they were in Egypt now, how many Egyptians came to, you know, this came along here? We don't know. We don't know how many people came to the tabernacle or anything like that. And my question is the tabernacle a church, or was it something else? That's what's really like making me wonder what exactly it was. And you know, we're not even that far into the Bible right now, but like when you look at it, ages and ages pass. So that means, like, you know, was this a church God wanted created? And what were churches like at this time period? Because remember, Moses had a father-in-law that was a priest. Who was he like? How where were all the people he was teaching? You know, and then all of a sudden he leaves. That's, you know, something I'm kind of curious about myself. But yeah, so like, you know, going back earlier to what I said about the problem in America, and you know, the whole like this whole thing of people trying to transition genders, okay? Transgenders. The reason I don't know why anybody would even want to consider doing that, you know? And the problem is we end up mistaking a lot of people for something now that they're not even a part of. Like for me, the fact I have long hair, I get accused of stuff all the time. But the reality of the truth is you can be a guy and have long hair. It's completely natural and completely normal. You know, that one actor that's really big has long hair. Roman Reigns has long hair. There's a few guys in the WWE that have long hair. There's a few wrestlers that have long hair, and they're like, you know, and people get it twisted and confused, and so we live in a society that's just utterly confused, and that's why I pray for society sometime to snap out of it, because society is under a huge trance. And you know where that trance comes from, right? It comes from our enemy, which is, the devil, and the subliminal messages we get from social media and stuff like that. Social media has caused one of the biggest problems, okay? So, before all like Twitter, Facebook and all that, before even the internet was a big thing, the time frame, even back then when the internet first became popular and people were on social media, we didn't all act like this. It just wasn't till, like, I want to say 5 to 10 years after the internet became a huge thing that people actually started, not even that, like, people started paying attention more to what people are doing through social media, like spying on them. And I have that going on in my own life, where I have people literally spying on what I do on social media, like whether it be YouTube, Facebook, anywhere. Like, I have people literally at my job spying on what I'm doing on my phone at my job. Like yesterday, I liked a post from Melanie Mack. Well, this girl was in the bathroom and she walked out past me after I liked this post from Melanie Mack. I'm like, what are you all doing spying on me for? Like, that's why I don't like the fact that, like, you can't have this life anymore that's secretive. Either you can barely have a life that's secretive anymore. People know what the hell you're doing, like 24/7. It's pretty sad that we're in that time frame where people feel the need to keep track of you, keep track of what you're doing. And it goes on top of, like, I walked into my lounge yesterday during my break and I pulled out some bread to make a sandwich. I had ham and cheese on the table, and there's this girl literally typing away on her phone. She stopped right in front of the table to look at what I had as a sandwich and then walked right back out. I'm like, what is with you people? You guys are psychotic right now. You guys are turning into, like, and and it's what's insane about it is, like, everybody will tell everybody about it. Like, you got a speck of dust on your shirt? Let me tell the whole world about it. Like, it's like, dude, this is why I don't respect you guys, because you weren't even friends to begin with. You didn't talk to me. You didn't give me the time of day. You didn't even hang out with me. And now look at you. You're looking at me like, well, he's making a sandwich. What kind of sandwich is he making? Do you want to see me go to the bathroom and poop? Because I can leave the door open so you can watch that too. You can text about that, whoever you're texting. That's how bad we are right now. That's how bad we are right now with social media and wanting to know everybody's personal life. Back in the 90s, when I first started, back when I first started working and got out of high school, and nobody knew your personal life. Nobody knew who you were dating. Nobody cared about who you were dating. And then we got to this age where we're all connected and online, and it's become the worst thing ever. And what I think we could do, and this is just, and I wish somebody would reach out to Elon Musk and tell him this, but we need to have it where people, this is just for Twitter, and this could be online in general, but we need to have a time limit on the internet, okay? We seriously need to have a time limit on the internet. That would be the only way to pull us from, that kind of stuff where we're consistently online, keeping track of people's life and what they're doing, And, I knew along with my YouTube and stuff like that was going to be paparazzi. I don't know why, but, like, even with YouTube, you're still going to have paparazzi. I'm going to actually make a video about how my life has changed since I reached 1,000, even though it's been a few days. And just, like, it's utterly nuts how much your life changes once you're doing YouTube and you put a couple videos out there and people, you grow, and people recognize you on the internet. Your life changes. Your life changes, and it just changes in a way that, I don't miss my old life because I didn't have much going on, but now, like, I have more going on, but I still have people doing the same stuff they were before, worse, probably worse than what they were doing before they even decided to sit down and talk to me, you know? And it's insane how people will, like, try to make you out to look like the bad guy, even though, you don't want to work in an average job. Anybody who works, an average job and wants to keep your job, I'm gonna praise you, yes. But there's bigger things to be doing out in the world. Like, you know, if I'm gonna make a living off of anything, I want it to be this. I want it to be through God's word, because at least then I'm doing something that's better than what most people are doing. Working for a place and then praising an idol or praising your boss and bowing down to your boss as a king. That's something that I don't want to be doing most of all of my life. And if I go back in time, my stepfather, he already called me lazy. The man already called me lazy years ago. He was complaining to my mom and called me lazy years ago. You know what? If he thinks I'm lazy right now, and it's just the whole thing escalates because they didn't have the opportunity to do what I'm doing, and if not, if they didn't have it, they didn't bother to take the time out to do it. And so that's how I ended up with, like, having to leave people behind, even when God told, that day God came to me and he told me, hey, who do you want to survive? And I told him, I still think that was him pulling me apart from them. Him pulling me apart from a lot of people, because a lot of people will try to pull you away from God, and when God exists and you're in his presence and you're praising him and he sees that in you, he's going to bless you. He's going to flow through people to bless you and give you exactly what he thinks you deserve, And just from here, I will say this. I know this is my early stages, and I know, like, within 3 months I made it here, okay? I'm very, very happy for that. In fact, I might try to do something later on a stream later on tonight. But I will say this. I know as I grow on YouTube, I know I'm going to feel bigger than what I am. But I probably will. I don't think I'm ever going to change. At least I like to hope I'm not going to change. Now, change is necessary, of course. I'm going to change some things about myself, and I just, I want people to know that, you can do this too. It isn't hard. You just got to know what to do. And the people always getting, like, weird about me doing this, it's weird because they don't bother to do it either. And you know, I don't talk about this anywhere else. I don't talk about this at work. If people are seeing it and they want to talk, fine. I already knew they were going to talk because that's what people do. The people that socialize and click together the most, they're the ones that talk the most. That's why it's hard for me to trust people that usually are in cliques, because the clique will usually be the first ones to talk. They don't really shut up. They do a lot of this, and they'll be like, bro, did you see that, bro? Bro, 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 bro. That's what it sounds like coming from a bunch of, like, Gen Z males, okay? That's what it sounds like. All right, it's just bro, 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 bro. Like, it's actually obnoxious, to be honest, and I don't say anything about it. And I say that word sometimes too, but I will not, even in a group, I will call a person a dude or something else before I end up, like, saying bro, because I know bro is that word now that the young generation, it's a hip in kind of thing. Now I say it once in a while, but I say it in terms when I'm like, okay, man, you've upset me, or something like that. It's turned into one of those fads that, like, I just see it now as like, oh boy, this generation is something else. All right, I'm gonna stick around for a few more minutes because I have a few things to say and get off my chest here about this. But as I know that this is gonna progress, I know a lot of people are gonna recognize me. I know there's gonna be those girls out there that are like that really, really, I know there's gonna be girls out there that, like, are really, really gonna, like, really try to do stuff. And I'm gonna try to, by all means, to prevent that from happening. I mean, and I don't mean what I mean is, you know, these girls that'll simp for a guy. I already clarified here when I started this that this was all about God. If you made this outside of God, I'm going to tell you why you should make it about God. I'm going to turn the whole right thing around to be like, could you stop simping on me and could you start praising your God? I'm going to say that. You know, I don't care if a girl finds me attractive. Well, I do. I like when girls find me attractive, of course. But at the same time, we need to remember that the simping needs to turn into praising God. Because if you're not here to praise God and you're here to watch me and you're here to talk about me, it's a whole different story. But if you're here to praise God, and you're okay to simp, of course, you're okay to like look at me and be like, yeah, he's an attractive dude. I wanna, I wanna meet him one day or something like that. That's fine too. But make sure you're praising God first. In fact, if you wanna meet me or something, and you find me attractive, pray to God. Pray, be like, I pray no such comes into my life one day. That will speak volume to God. That will show God what you're doing. That will show God that you're not here just watching me. You're here to listen to His word, and you're here to respect God. All right. Just remember, there's a way of doing things. Like when I simp for somebody, or like when I simp on like somebody like Melanie Mack, I I simped on her before, but then when she started reading the Bible, I started changing my ways because I started realizing as I started reading the Bible that I need to listen to her, read the Bible, and pray that I meet her one day. And that's what I do sometimes. I pray that I meet her one day. Um, it's like anybody. You can't naturally simp on anybody. You have to pray and make sure one day you meet them. If you think they're attractive human being, pray to God and He'll try to bring them into your life some way or another. You know, and it's one of those things that you have to be fully aware of what you're doing. You can't leave yourself go too deep into one area and be like, well, think that it's all gonna be fine and dandy. Because I know at the end of the day, um, there's a way of doing things that needs to be justified, and praising God or praying to God for a blessing. That's gonna show God that you have God in your life. Okay, that's gonna show God that you want His attention. If ladies, if you want to do anything, or guys, if you want to do anything, always make sure you're praying to God. God will give you those blessings. God knows you're speaking with Him, and God wants to know you're speaking with Him. God doesn't want to know that you're praising God and you're not even, you're simping on somebody and you're making them into an idol before God, because guess what? It's going to go down a bad route. And there's a lot of people in the world that don't even think about things the way I do. So that's why I sit here and I have these discussions, and it's just insane how like people will go about things. And like I know that right now I have enough subs where if I would go to the college right now, go walk down in college, I'm sure there'd be girls like going crazy or something like that, which I don't have a problem with. That's normal, okay? But like we have to remember, pray to our God to make things happen. And wherever I get pulled, I am planning on going and doing events at some point. But wherever I get pulled outside of this, I want you all to understand. For me, God comes first. You could be the most attractive woman in the world, and God will always come before you. And I have clarified that to many people. People were asking me to do something the other day. I was like, I can't. I'm gonna go praise to God because, God comes before everybody. You know, and whether you get mad about that or not, that the point of what I'm doing is trying to show you that you need to put God before anything to get your blessings, and praise God before you get your blessings. If I'm saying to you as a super very attractive woman, okay, now I'm a guy who likes women, but if you cannot understand that God has to come before you, and I sit there and I'm like, look, I can't, I have plans to do this because I made this vow with God. This is my covenant with God. My YouTube channel is my covenant of God existing for me. Okay, that's why the numbers have picked up so tremendously, because it was a covenant and a pact I made with God to praise Him every single day for the rest of my life until YouTube changes, or like I I get off of YouTube. And then again, it might not even happen because if I'm, you know, I might be praising God for the rest of my life till the day I pass. And one day, you're going to be watching this channel. I'll be over 100 years old. And you'll be like, man, this guy's still preaching the word of God. Yes, I'm going to still be preaching the word of God because this is my covenant with God. This is my connection with God. If you have not made a pact with God, if you have not made a covenant with God yet, do so today. Find something that's going to put God into your life and make sure you make a covenant with him. Okay? If it wasn't for the covenant, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I wouldn't be seeing a lot of stuff I'm seeing today, especially some of the blessings I got. I wouldn't have them I wouldn't have them. Back when I started YouTube, I started the wrong way, and where I am today is a lot different than where I was like over a year ago. You know, and back before 2024 kicked, I saw some stuff going. I'm like, wow, 2024 is going to be a great year for me, and beyond that's going to be an amazing year too. And so far, God has not failed to show me that 2024 and beyond is going to be a good time in my life, you know. And this is actually my turning point where I needed to have I needed to start doing something that was going to change my world around. And with the blessings I've received and the covenant I made with God, and the fact that God's showing his signs of the covenant working in my favor, that's something you cannot that's something I'll never be able to deny. Excuse me. So, at the end of the day, again, like I said, if you could be the most attractive woman in the world, and I will sit there and I will tell you to the face, yeah, look, you're pretty and I like you, but God needs to come before you because God would have never brought you to me. Just remember, ladies, if there's a guy out there praising God and he's putting God before you, that's the guy. That's a guy that's a good man, and you want to try to keep him around you as long as possible because he's going to bless you through. You will be blessed through him by God if you stick around with him and you let him pray. Trust me, he will be a blessing in disguise, and you will not understand that until you meet that guy, you know. So I just clarifying that I'm going like if I ever go anywhere and I get simped on by a bunch of girls, that's fine, but God's always gonna come first, regardless of how anybody feels. All right, all right. So with that said, I'm gonna say prayers here today, and then we're gonna get out of here, and I'll be back later on today, in the evening sometime. So, but all right. Lord Jesus Christ, I pray to you today, to, you know, bring some light into the world. Lord, I want everybody that understands that I'm here praising you, and this covenant you gave me is very, very amazing, God. So keep up the covenant you have going with me. Make me the biggest channel on YouTube. Put me on every phone, like I said. Make the algorithm really, really dish my stuff to people. If you really feel like they need it, reach out, and give the praise of God to them, so that way they're capable of watching and seeing what I'm doing here, Lord. But I want people to know, and if they meet me, that they can connect and they can talk with me, but you're always going to come first, Lord. Just remind them that you will always come first, regardless of what situation it's in, Lord. Like I was just saying, I want these people that are gonna, I want these girls that are gonna simp for me, or these women that are gonna simp for me. I want them to know you're gonna come before them. There is no anybody before you, and that's final. And I clarified that because you've made a covenant. You and I have made a covenant, Lord. So, Lord, I also want you to give Melanie Mack her inner strength. I want to see her produce videos today, and I want to see her have that heart of fire. Send the holy fire in her, Lord, and keep her above, and keep her, give her inner strength that she needs. Same thing with Brittany Venti, Lord. And there's a couple other people that are in the video game industry or the video game community, Lord, that really I think could use you. I think could use your help. I think I'm hearing a lot of discouraging things coming from Miss Click about the video game community, and a couple others that really, Lord, I think you could help. I think you need to disconnect the people that are being toxic to the video game community, like over excessively toxic, not masculinity toxic, but like over excessively toxic. And disconnect them from the video game community, Lord, and bring them to you. Bring the whole video game community to you, Lord. Bless the video game community and bless it with your light, Lord. And have people praise your name, Lord. We need you in the video game community big time because there's a lot going on and a lot of people need to change their ways. I'm glad you did the whole thing with Xbox for Phil Spencer because more than likely we'll see an app in the future, and I'm glad you did that because he had blessed everybody so it's time you blessed Xbox. You know, I know that sounds funny, but bless Phil Spencer, bless Xbox, and bless the things that are going on in the video game community because they blessed everybody, Lord. So, and also, you know, any drama that's going on in the world today, Lord, make sure you put a right to it. Make sure you correct it. Make sure all the unjust gets corrected, and make sure you help them understand that you will strike if you need to. Lord, send us all angels if there's some sort of like political drama going on in streets, anywhere, or send us angels to protect us and make sure the people doing all the wrongs get right. All right, in Jesus' name, amen. So there you have it. That was a pretty good prayer today. I did that solely because, like, if you know, I feel like we need some form of really strong protection here, and an angel would be suffice. You know, angels coming to the planet, or angels coming to Earth and standing by us are one of the most effective ways of doing things. You know, I know a lot of people out there won't understand that, but like I've had experiences with angels in my life too, and boy oh boy, there's something else. You know, I never actually saw them, but I had an angel experience, so it's real. And with that said, guys, I hope you like what you saw here. If you did, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. You know, also follow my channel on YouTube. We're over 1,000 now. I'm trying to work my way up to 2,000, so I can get monetized and start selling items. Because I have a few ideas I want to start selling through YouTube, but I'm not sure when I'm going to do that yet because I need YouTube monetization to pick up for me so I can do it. And until the meantime, guys, I'll see you all later on today. Stay blessed, stay praying, read the Bible in between here. Like read one verse, or not read one verse, but read one chapter in between here and then before I come back. And, you know, you'll see why I talk about the Holy Spirit flowing through me, and it feels like I just drank an energy drink. So, with that said, guys, take it easy, and God bless.